A summer night in 1949, the air thick with the humid heat of Central Florida, when a single baseless accusation ignited a firestorm of racial hatred that would burn through lives and justice itself. This isn't just a story of crime. It's a chilling testament to how deeply prejudice can warp perception, turning innocent men into targets and a community into a mob. What unfolded in the small town of Groveland would become a dark stain on American history, a stark reminder of the brutal realities faced by Black Americans in the Jim Crow South. The echoes of that night and the days that followed resonate even today, speaking of systemic injustice and the fight for truth against overwhelming odds. This is the story of the Groveland Four. Remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of the Calendar of Crime. On July 16, 1949, in Groveland, Florida, a young white woman named Norma Paget claimed she had been abducted and raped by 4 Black men. Her husband, who had allegedly been knocked unconscious, corroborated her story. This accusation, made in a deeply segregated and racially charged environment, immediately set off a chain of events that would devastate the lives of 4 innocent men and terrorize the Black community of Lake County. The alleged incident quickly escalated into a violent racial backlash. White mobs, fueled by rumor and racial animosity, descended upon Groveland and the surrounding areas. Homes of Black residents were set ablaze, and many families were forced to flee for their lives, seeking refuge in nearby towns or the swamps, fearing for their safety amidst the escalating violence. Law enforcement, rather than protecting the innocent, often participated in or condoned the intimidation. The search for the accused men began with a ferocity that mirrored the mob's rage. Ernest Thomas, one of the 4 men identified, became a primary target. He fled the area, desperate to escape the inevitable fate that awaited any Black man accused of such a crime in the South. His flight, however, was interpreted as an admission of guilt by the authorities and the inflamed public. 10 days after the alleged crime, on July 26, 1949, Ernest Thomas's desperate flight came to a tragic end. A massive posse, numbering over 1,000 white men, tracked him down in Madison, Florida, nearly 100 miles away. Without trial or due process, Thomas was shot and killed by Sheriff Willis McCall and his deputies. His death was officially ruled as justifiable homicide, but many believed it was an execution, a brutal act of racial violence disguised as law enforcement. Meanwhile, the other 3 men, Charles Greenlee, Samuel Shepard, and Walter Irvin, were apprehended. Their arrests were swift, and they were subjected to brutal interrogations and coerced confessions. Despite the lack of credible evidence and the clear racial bias surrounding the case, they were quickly indicted. The legal proceedings that followed were a travesty of justice, marred by intimidation, all-white juries, and a predetermined outcome. The trials of Greenlee, Shepard, and Irvin became a focal point of racial injustice. Greenlee, being a minor, was sentenced to life in prison. Shepard and Irvin were sentenced to death. The NAACP, led by Thurgood Marshall, stepped in to appeal the convictions, highlighting the systemic racism and legal irregularities that plagued the case. Their intervention brought national attention to the plight of the Groveland Four. Even after the Supreme Court overturned the convictions of Shepard and Irvin due to systematic exclusion of Black jurors, the fight for justice was far from over. On their way to a retrial, Sheriff McCall shot Shepard and Irvin, claiming they attempted to escape. Shepard died, and Irvin, though severely wounded, survived. Irvin was later retried, again convicted, and sentenced to life in prison, eventually being paroled in 1968. The story of the Groveland Four is a harrowing example of racial injustice, a false accusation weaponized by a racist society to destroy lives and uphold white supremacy. It stands as a powerful reminder of the courage of those who fought for their innocence against insurmountable odds and the enduring struggle for civil rights. The men were posthumously pardoned in 2019, and their names finally cleared, but the scars of that summer in 1949 remain a stark warning from history. Thanks for watching. Please comment, share, like, and subscribe for future episodes from the Calendar of Crime.